I never thought helping someone would destroy my life or save it. My name is Emma Hayes, and I'm just a nurse working night shifts at St. Mary's Hospital in Chicago. 28 years old, living alone, taking the same route home every night. My life was predictable, safe, boring even, until the night I found him bleeding in that alley. It was October, cold and dark. I'd just finished a brutal 12-hour shift when I heard the groan. Low, pained, coming from behind the dumpster in the shortcut I always took. Every instinct screamed to keep walking, call 911, do anything except get involved. But I'm a nurse. I can't ignore someone dying. If you're enjoying this already, please hit that like button and subscribe. You won't believe what happens next. He was slumped against the brick wall, expensive suit soaked with blood. Even in the shadows, I could see he was young, maybe 30, with dark hair and a face that would have been handsome if it wasn't twisted in agony. His eyes found mine, black, intense, dangerous, and he tried to warn me off with a weak gesture. But the wound in his side was serious, and I was already kneeling beside him, pulling supplies from my bag. I always carried an emergency kit, habit from my profession. As I pressed gauze against the gash, trying to stop the bleeding, his hand suddenly gripped my wrist with surprising strength. Our eyes locked, and something electric passed between us. Something I couldn't explain and definitely shouldn't have felt for a bleeding stranger who might be dangerous. Against every logical thought, I got him to his feet and half-dragged him to my apartment building 2 blocks away. He was heavy, muscular, and kept drifting in and out of consciousness. My neighbors would think I was insane if they saw me. Thankfully, the halls were empty at 3 a.m. Inside my apartment, I laid him on my couch and went into full nurse mode. The wound wasn't as deep as I feared, but it needed stitches. I cleaned it, sutured it, administered antibiotics from my personal supply. He mumbled words I couldn't understand, his face pale but still striking in a dangerous way. There was authority in his features, power that clung to him even unconscious. Hours passed. Dawn broke. Exhaustion finally dragged me to the armchair across from him, and I fell asleep wondering what the hell I'd just done. When I woke, he was watching me with those penetrating dark eyes, now fully alert, and studying me like I was a puzzle to solve. Morning light showed me his face clearly for the first time. Sharp cheekbones, strong jaw, old scars on his knuckles that told stories I probably didn't want to know. "Who are you?" I demanded, staying in my chair, suddenly aware of how vulnerable I was. "Someone who owes you a debt," he said, his voice deep and smooth with an accent I couldn't place. "You saved my life. I don't forget that." He paused, weighing his words. "My name is Dante Romano." The name meant nothing to me, but the way he said it suggested it should. I stood, moving to the kitchen to create distance. "You need a hospital. That wound needs proper monitoring. No hospitals. No authorities. No records." His tone left no room for argument. He stood, moving with grace that shouldn't have been possible with his injury, and approached slowly. "You're a nurse. I could tell by how you worked." I backed against the counter as he came closer. "What happened to you? Who did this?" "Business disagreement?" he said with a slight smile that didn't reach his eyes. "The kind resolved in alleys, not boardrooms. You shouldn't have gotten involved, but I'm grateful." He nodded toward my mail on the counter. "Emma Hayes." The way he said my name sent shivers down my spine. "You need to leave. I helped because I'm a nurse, but whatever you're involved in, I don't want any part of it." "Too late." His expression turned serious. "They saw you. The men who did this saw a woman help me before they fled. They'll be looking for me, and for you. You're in danger now whether you want to be or not." Before I could panic, loud knocking thundered on my door. Dante moved with startling speed, pulling me behind him, his entire demeanor shifting from injured man to predator. "Expecting anyone?" he whispered. I shook my head, fear clawing at my throat. Another knock, more insistent. "Emma Hayes, we need to talk. Now." Dante moved to the window, peering through the curtains. What he saw made him curse in Italian. 3 at your door, 6 more in the hallway." He pulled out a phone, sending a rapid text. "My people are 10 minutes away. We just need to hold out." My people. What kind of person had I saved? But as the door shuttered under assault, I realized it didn't matter. My life as I knew it was over the moment I decided to help a bleeding stranger in an alley. The door splintered but held. Dante shoved my bookshelf in front of it, buying precious minutes. His phone buzzed as he coordinated with whoever his people were. I stood frozen, watching this stranger take command of my apartment with efficiency that spoke of countless similar situations. "The fire escape?" I suggested, trying to help. He shook his head. "They'll have someone watching. Basic tactics. They're not amateurs." He checked his phone. 8 minutes. The door shuddered again, harder. I heard multiple voices outside, planning. The realization that armed men were trying to break into my home sent terror and adrenaline flooding through me. Are they going to kill us? I asked, surprised by how steady my voice sounded. They want me alive, Dante said, standing beside me. They'll try not to harm if possible. But Emma, if they separate us, don't trust them. They can't leave witnesses. A loud crack signaled the door breaking. The bookshelf scraped as it was forced inward. Dante immediately pulled me into the bathroom. Get in the tub, he ordered, positioning himself by the door. I obeyed, crouching in my bathtub, feeling ridiculous and terrified. Through the crack, I watched 3 large men enter, weapons drawn, moving with military precision. Romano, the leader called, a tall man with a scar down his face. Come out, and the girl doesn't get hurt. You have my word. Dante laughed coldly. Your word means nothing, Victor. You attacked me during truce negotiations. That's a death sentence from the 5 families. 5 families. Mafia. The realization crystallized with horrifying clarity. The Romano family is weak, Victor spat, moving closer. Your father's treaties die with his generation. We're taking what should have been ours, starting with you. Dante's phone buzzed. Relief flashed across his face. My family might be old-fashioned, Victor, but we're far from weak. You're about to learn the difference. Thunder of footsteps on stairs, shouts, sounds of fighting. Victor's expression changed from confident to alarmed. He gestured to his men, but too late. The apartment filled with men in dark suits moving with coordinated precision. Within seconds, Victor and his crew were disarmed and forced to their knees. Through it all, Dante remained by the bathroom door, protecting me. An older man with silver hair entered, surveying the scene. Boss, he said, respect evident. You're injured. Nothing serious, Marco. Thanks to her. Dante opened the bathroom door, offering me his hand. I took it, my legs shaky. The older man assessed me quickly. I stood there in wrinkled scrubs, barefoot, surrounded by at least 20 armed men, all staring at me with curiosity. Dante kept my hand in his. Marco, this is Emma Hayes. She saved my life. She's under my protection now. Full family protection. Spread the word. The weight of those words crashed over me. Family protection. I'd gone from nurse to protected asset of a mafia family in 12 hours. Marco nodded, pulling out his phone. Other men secured Victor and his crew. The scarred man glared at me with such hatred I stepped closer to Dante, who wrapped an arm around my shoulders protectively. This isn't over, Romano, Victor hissed. You can't protect her forever. The moment you slip, Dante moved so fast I barely saw it. His hand wrapped around Victor's throat, his face inches away, voice dropping to a deadly whisper. If you or anyone connected to you even looks at her again, I won't just kill you, Victor. I'll erase every trace of your bloodline from this city. Your family, your organization, your legacy. Gone. Understand? The room fell silent. Even I could feel the weight of the threat, the absolute certainty he meant every word. Victor's face paled, and he nodded. I stood in the wreckage of my apartment, surrounded by strangers, holding the hand of a man I'd met 12 hours ago, and realized everything had changed. There was no going back. Within an hour, my apartment was cleared. Dante's men worked with remarkable efficiency, removing evidence, repairing what could be fixed. Marco showed Dante security footage on a tablet, cameras from the building and streets. They discussed surveillance with casual ease that made my head spin. You can't stay here, Dante said, his hand resting on my lower back. Victor's people know where you live. While he won't risk open retaliation after that warning, there are always loose cannons. I can't risk your safety. Where am I supposed to go? I asked, hearing the edge in my voice. Adrenaline was wearing off, replaced by exhaustion and shock. My home felt violated, unsafe. I have a shift tonight. Responsibilities, a job, a life. You have a life I'm going to protect. Dante interrupted gently but firmly. His dark eyes held mine with genuine concern. Emma, please. Let me keep you safe. You saved me, and now I'm responsible for you. That's how my world works. Honor, debts, protection. These aren't just words. They're everything. Your world, I repeated. The Mafia. Your Mafia. Not just some low-level member, but someone important. That's why Victor wanted you dead. Why you have all these men. Dante didn't deny it. My father is Salvatore Romano, head of the Romano family, one of the 5 families that control this city. I'm his eldest son and heir. Victor's organization has been trying to move in on our territory. Last night was an assassination attempt during peaceful negotiations. He broke every rule we live by. What you walked into was the opening move of a war. I sank onto my couch, the same one I'd laid him on last night. I'm a nurse, I said quietly. I save lives. I don't get involved in wars, in crime. I just wanted to help someone hurt. He knelt in front of me, bringing himself to eye level. His hands covered mine, warm and gentle. And that's exactly why you're remarkable. In a world where most people would have walked past, you stopped. You put yourself at risk for a stranger. You brought me into your home, saved me, asked for nothing. Do you know how rare that is? His words, the intensity in his eyes, made my breath catch. This close, I could see gold flecks in his dark irises, smell his cologne mixed with antiseptic. He was dangerous, a criminal, yet I felt safer with him than I'd felt in years. I did what any decent person would do. I protested weakly. No, he said firmly, his thumbs stroking my hands. You did what a good person would do. There's a difference. The world is full of decent people who choose safety over compassion. You chose differently. He paused. Emma, I know this is overwhelming, but please let me protect you. Let me bring you somewhere safe while we handle Victor's organization. Just a few days, maybe a week. Looking around my violated apartment, remembering Victor's hatred, I knew I didn't have a choice. Where? My family's estate. Outside the city, secure, protected. You'll have your own rooms, privacy, anything you need, and you'll meet my father. The thought of meeting the head of a Mafia family terrified me, but staying here terrified me more. Okay, but I need to call my supervisor. Tell them I need emergency leave. Dante nodded, standing and pulling me gently up. Tell them family emergency. You'll be gone a week or two. Marco will handle any follow-up. The ease with which he could manipulate my life should have frightened me more. Instead, I felt secure, protected by someone with power to actually keep me safe. As I packed under watchful eyes, called my supervisor with a rehearsed story, I processed the surreal turn. 24 hours ago, I was a nurse with a quiet life. Now I was under Romano protection, moving into their estate. The man bleeding in an alley was now my protector. And somewhere along the way, I'd started to trust him completely. God help me. I'd started to feel something more than trust. The Romano estate sat 30 miles outside Chicago, hidden behind tall stone walls and intimidating gates. As we drove through in Dante's SUV, flanked by 2 security vehicles, I got my first glimpse of his world. The main house was enormous, a Mediterranean-style villa that looked transplanted from Italy. Gardens stretched everywhere, meticulously maintained, with fountains and statuary that probably cost more than I'd make in a lifetime. This is where you grew up? I asked, pressing my face to the window, unable to hide my awe. Dante smiled, the first genuine smile I'd seen, and it transformed his face from dangerously handsome to devastating. My childhood prison, yes. Every Romano for 3 generations has grown up behind these walls. It's home, but also a fortress. You'll be safe here, Emma. I promise. As we pulled up, the massive doors opened to reveal an older man who could only be Dante's father. Salvatore Romano was in his 60s, distinguished with silver hair and the same dark eyes. He carried himself with authority earned over decades. Behind him stood several other men, family members or associates, all watching with intense interest. Dante helped me out, his hand finding my lower back again. Father, this is Emma Hayes. She saved my life last night. Salvatore's sharp eyes assessed me thoroughly before his stern expression softened slightly. Miss Hayes, he said, accent thicker than Dante's, voice gravelly. My son tells me you risked your life to help him bleeding in an alley, that you brought him home, tended his wounds, asked for nothing. Is this true? I'm a nurse, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Someone was hurt. I helped. That's what I do. Spoken like someone who doesn't understand the value of what she did, Salvatore said with something like approval. In our world, loyalty and honor are everything. You showed both to a stranger, expecting nothing. That's rare, precious even. He turned to Dante. She'll stay in the East Wing, the blue rooms. Make sure she has everything she needs. Inside, I was overwhelmed by opulence. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, artwork that belonged in museums. Breathtaking and alienating. I'd never felt more out of place. Dante sensed my discomfort, leaning close as we climbed a grand staircase. I know this is a lot, but you'll adjust. And you won't be alone. I'll make sure of it. The blue rooms were a suite larger than my apartment, decorated in soft blues and creams with antique furniture. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked gardens. The bathroom had a tub big enough to swim in. A young woman appeared, Maria, assigned to help with anything I needed. Get some rest, Dante said, lingering in the doorway. We'll have dinner tonight with my father. He'll want to discuss arrangements, probably interrogate you more. Don't worry. He's tough but fair, and he already likes you. After he left, I sank onto the massive bed, processing everything. Less than 24 hours ago, I'd been walking home from work. Now I was a guest or prisoner in a crime family's estate. I should have been more frightened. Instead, I felt oddly safe, protected in a way I hadn't since my parents died 5 years ago. And Dante? I couldn't stop thinking about him, about how he looked at me, protected me, seemed to genuinely care despite barely knowing me. That evening, dinner was intimidating. The dining room could seat 30, though only 5 sat at one end. Salvatore at the head, Dante to his right, me to his left, and 2 others introduced as Dante's brothers, Marco and Luca. Both resembled Dante, though Marco seemed more serious while Luca had an easy smile. The meal was elaborate, course after course of Italian dishes served by silent staff. Tell me about yourself, Miss Hayes, Salvatore said. Where are you from? Your family? I suspected he already knew, had probably investigated me. But I answered honestly. I grew up in Ohio, small town outside Cleveland. My parents died in a car accident 5 years ago. No siblings. I moved to Chicago for nursing school, stayed after graduation. I work night shifts at St. Mary's. It's not exciting, but it's honest work, and I'm good at it. Salvatore nodded thoughtfully. Honest work is never something to diminish. You help people, save lives. That's more noble than most. He paused, gaze shifting between me and Dante, who'd been watching me throughout dinner. My son tells me Victor's people saw you. That means you're in danger until we resolve this. The attack violated our accords. There will be consequences. But these things take time. Until Victor's organization is handled, you cannot return to normal life. Understand? How long? I asked, voice shaking slightly. Days? Weeks? Could be weeks. Could be months, Salvatore said bluntly. Depends on how quickly Victor's allies abandon him. We'll provide everything you need: room, board, security, stipend if needed. Your job will be held, but you stay here, under our protection, until I deem it safe. Months. My life on hold, dependent on a crime family's mercy. The walls felt like they were closing in. Dante's hand found mine under the table, squeezing gently, grounding me. She'll be safe, Father, he said quietly. I'll personally ensure it. I know you will, Salvatore replied, watching where our hands joined with an expression I couldn't read. Which brings me to my next point. Dante, you'll move to the East Wing. If you're guaranteeing her safety personally, you need to be close. Standard protocols. I felt Dante tense, felt my cheeks flush at the implication. We'd be living in close quarters. The intimacy felt dangerous in ways unrelated to Victor, but neither of us argued. As dinner concluded, I tried to process what my life had become. A guest in a gilded cage, protected by a man I barely knew but was increasingly drawn to, trapped until a war I didn't understand reached conclusion. And somehow, despite fear and uncertainty, part of me didn't want to leave. The first week passed in surreal blur. My days developed strange routine. Mornings in the library, afternoons walking gardens under watchful security, evenings dining with Dante and sometimes family. True to Salvatore's word, Dante moved into the East Wing, rooms directly across from mine. I was hyper-aware of his presence, heard him at night, found myself seeking him out without meaning to. Maria arranged clothes for me since my hastily packed bag was insufficient. I protested, uncomfortable with expense, but Dante simply said it was handled, and I should accept the family's generosity. Everything here operated on different scale. Money wasn't discussed because it wasn't an issue. I found myself in beautiful dresses and designer jeans that fit perfectly. Dante had me check his wound daily, the injury healing remarkably well. Those moments when I changed bandages became charged with unspoken tension. My hands on his skin, his eyes on my face, both aware of growing attraction neither acknowledged. His body was impressive, marked with scars telling stories of violence I didn't want to imagine. You have good hands, he said one morning as I applied fresh gauze. Gentle but sure. I imagine you're an excellent nurse. I do my best, I replied, hyper-aware of where my fingers touched his skin, the heat of him. Though most patients don't have quite so many scars. You've been hurt before, many times. Occupational hazard, he said with a slight smile that didn't reach his eyes. This life isn't gentle. Every scar is a lesson, a reminder to be faster, smarter, more careful next time. As days passed, I learned more about the Romano family. Marco was Dante's enforcer, most trusted friend and lieutenant. Luca handled legitimate business interests. Apparently, the family had extensive legal enterprises as both income and cover. Salvatore ruled everything with strategic precision, a chess master moving unseen pieces. And Dante was the heir, being groomed to take over, caught between loyalty to family legacy and something else. Weariness, maybe, or doubt about his path. We began spending more time together, not just from proximity, but by choice. He showed me around the estate, told stories about growing up here, revealed pieces of himself in moments of unexpected vulnerability. I learned he'd wanted to be an architect before his father's expectations made it impossible, that he read voraciously, everything from philosophy to science fiction, that he found violence of his position necessary but took no pleasure in it. "Do you ever wish you could walk away?" I asked one afternoon as we sat in the garden, security maintaining discreet distance. "Just leave this life, become someone else?" He was quiet for a long time, staring at the fountain. "Every day," he finally admitted softly. "But it's not that simple. My family, the people who depend on us, enemies who'd see any absence as weakness. You can't just walk away. I'm the eldest son. The responsibility was mine before I understood what it meant." His honesty, the vulnerability in admitting something he rarely acknowledged, made my heart ache. I reached out, covering his hand with mine. "I'm sorry. No one should have their life decided before they're old enough to choose." He turned his hand over, threading fingers through mine, dark eyes finding mine with intensity that stole my breath. "And what about you, Emma? Do you have regrets? Wishes for a different life?" I considered seriously, aware of how his thumb stroked the back of my hand, sending shivers up my arm. I wish my parents were still alive. I wish I'd had more time with them, told them I loved them more. But my job, my life, I chose it. And it's good, meaningful. I help people. That matters. Even here, trapped in circumstances beyond control, I couldn't regret helping him. It had led to this, whatever was growing between us, and despite danger and uncertainty, I couldn't wish it hadn't happened. "You're remarkable," Dante said, voice rough with emotion. "Genuinely good in a way that's rare. You deserve better than being trapped here, pulled into my world's darkness." I squeezed his hand, leaning closer on the bench. "I'm not trapped, Dante. Scared sometimes. Confused, definitely, but not trapped. You've kept me safe, treated me with respect, given me more than I need. And spending time with you, that's not a hardship." The air between us charged with possibility, with unspoken feelings. He leaned in slowly, giving me time to pull away. My heart raced as distance closed. His lips were almost touching mine when Marco's voice shattered the moment. "Boss, we have a situation. Your father needs you immediately. It's about Victor." I paced my room for what felt like hours, hearing raised voices elsewhere, footsteps running past my door, general commotion suggesting something serious. Maria brought dinner on a tray, refusing to answer questions beyond assuring me Dante was fine, and I should stay put. The lack of information was agonizing, worse than knowing. It was nearly midnight when Dante finally knocked, letting himself in. He looked exhausted, weight of whatever happened evident in tension of his shoulders, tightness around eyes. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to leave you worrying so long. Things got complicated." "What happened?" I asked, resisting urge to touch him, verify he was unharmed. "Is it Victor?" "Victor's dead," Dante said bluntly, and I gasped. "Not by our hand. His own people killed him. Apparently, attacking me violated more than just our family's agreements. The other organization saw it as destabilizing, dangerous to peace. His second reached out through intermediaries, offering proof of Victor's death and requesting negotiations." "So it's over?" I asked, hope and disappointment warring in my chest. "I can go home?" Dante's expression turned conflicted, almost pained. "Not quite. Victor's death doesn't eliminate all threats. His organization is fractured, infighting for power. Some factions want peace, want to honor old agreements. Others want revenge, see continuing the fight as pride. Until dust settles and we know who's taken control, you're still in danger. Anyone who helped me that night is still a potential target." "How long?" I asked again. "Another week? Month? I don't know," Dante admitted, running hand through dark hair in frustration. "Father thinks at least 2 more weeks, maybe a month. They're negotiating now, establishing new leadership we can work with, but these things take time." "Emma, I know this isn't fair. Do you want me to leave?" I interrupted, the question surprising us both. But I needed to know if the connection I felt was one-sided. Is keeping me here just about protection, or... I trailed off, unable to finish, terrified of the answer either way. He closed distance in 2 strides, hands framing my face with gentleness that contradicted his dangerous reputation. I don't want you to leave, he said fiercely, dark eyes boring into mine. I know I should. I know you deserve better than this world, than me. But God help me, Emma. I don't want you to go. Ever. His confession hung between us, raw and honest, before his mouth found mine in a kiss that was nothing like the gentle, almost moment in the garden. This was desperate, passionate, weeks of tension and denial combusting. I kissed him back with equal fervor, hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer. He tasted like whiskey and danger and something uniquely him. When we broke apart, both breathing hard, his forehead rested against mine. This is insane, he murmured, hands still cradling my face. You should run from me, from this life. I'm damaged, dangerous. I'll only bring you darkness. Maybe I don't want to run, I whispered, fingers tracing his jaw. Maybe I see more than darkness when I look at you. Maybe I see a man who protects people he cares about, who reads philosophy, who wanted to build beautiful things instead of running an empire. Maybe I see someone who's as trapped as I am, just differently. He kissed me again, softer but no less intense, conveying things we weren't ready to say aloud. Stay with me tonight, he said against my lips. I don't want to leave you alone, and I can't stand to be apart anymore. I nodded, unable to speak past emotion, and let him lead me across the hall. We lay together on his bed, fully clothed, wrapped in each other's arms in darkness. He held me like I might disappear, face buried in my hair, heart beating steady against my back. I will keep you safe, he promised, voice rough. Whatever it takes, whoever I have to eliminate, I will protect you. You've become too important, Emma. You've gotten under my skin, into my head, my heart. I can't let anything happen to you. His fierce protectiveness, the casual mention of elimination, the obsessive edge, it should have frightened me. Instead, I felt safer than ever, cherished in a way I'd never experienced. I trust you, I whispered into darkness, and felt him tense with weight of that trust. We fell asleep tangled together, 2 people from completely different worlds finding unexpected solace, the future uncertain but the present perfect. The next 2 weeks passed in haze of growing intimacy and stolen moments. Dante and I became inseparable, spending every possible moment together while maintaining pretense of propriety around his family. But everyone knew. I could see it in Salvatore's knowing looks, in how Marco and Luca teased their brother with increasing boldness. We talked for hours about everything. He wanted to know everything about me. My childhood in Ohio, my parents, nursing school, my dreams and fears and books I loved. I asked about his life, the weight of his legacy, the violence he tried to spare me from but couldn't entirely hide. His wound healed completely, leaving another scar to add to his collection. I traced it sometimes when we lay together in darkness, and he'd tell me stories about the others, not the violence, but the lessons learned, the people he'd protected, the responsibilities he carried. What happens when this is over? I asked one night as we lay on his bed, my head on his chest, his fingers playing with my hair. When Victor's organization settles and I'm no longer in danger, do I just go back to my normal life? Pretend none of this happened? His arms tightened around me. Is that what you want? I don't know what I want anymore, I admitted. 3 weeks ago, I was a night shift nurse with a simple life. Now I'm... what? Involved with a mafia heir? Living in a fortress? I don't even know what this is, Dante. What we are. He shifted, rolling so we faced each other, his dark eyes serious in the moonlight streaming through windows. You're mine, Emma. That's what you are. Mine to protect, mine to cherish, mine to love if you'll let me. I know it's fast. I know it's insane. But I've never felt like this about anyone. You walked into my life when I was bleeding and dying, and you saved me. Not just my life. You saved something in me I didn't even know was dying. Dante, I breathed, overwhelmed by the intensity of his confession, the vulnerability in admitting feelings so deep so soon. I love you, he said simply, fiercely. I know it's too soon. I know I shouldn't. But I do. And when this is over, when you're safe, I want you to stay. Not as someone under protection, but as someone who chooses to be here, with me. As my woman, my partner, maybe eventually my wife if you'll have me. Tears welled in my eyes. You're asking me to choose your world. The violence, the danger, the constant threat. That's what loving you means. I know, he said, pain flickering across his features. And I know it's selfish to ask. You deserve normal, safe, peaceful. But I'm asking anyway because I can't imagine my life without you now. You've become essential, Emma. Like breathing. I traced his face with my fingers. This complicated, dangerous, surprisingly tender man who'd somehow stolen my heart in 3 weeks. I love you too, I whispered, and watched wonder and relief flood his expression. I don't know how it happened so fast, but I do. And I'm terrified, Dante. Terrified of your world, terrified of losing you, terrified of what loving you means for my life. I'll protect you, he promised, kissing me softly. Always. From everything, including my world when I can. You won't be alone in this. We made love that night for the first time. Slow and tender and intense, sealing promises we'd made with our bodies. Afterward, wrapped in each other, I tried not to think about what came next. News came 3 days later during breakfast. Marco burst into the dining room where Dante, Salvatore, and I were eating, his face grave. We have a problem. Major problem. Salvatore immediately dismissed the staff. Speak. Victor's organization has new leadership, someone we didn't anticipate. Marco's eyes flicked to me briefly, something like pity in them. Anthony Marino has taken control, and he's not interested in peace. I watched Dante's face drain of color, his entire body going rigid. Anthony? That's impossible. He was exiled 5 years ago. He's back, Marco confirmed. And he's calling for Emma Hayes to be delivered to him within 48 hours, or he'll consider it an act of war against his organization by ours. Absolutely not, Dante said immediately, his voice deadly calm in a way that was more terrifying than shouting. Emma is under full Romano protection. Anyone who touches her dies. That's not negotiable. Salvatore's expression was troubled. Dante, you need to understand what you're committing us to. Anthony Marino is dangerous, unhinged, and has no respect for the old ways. If we refuse his demand, we're looking at full-scale war. Hundreds could die. Then hundreds die, Dante said coldly. I'm not handing her over to be killed or worse to avoid conflict. She's mine to protect, and I will. Who is Anthony Marino? I asked, my voice small. Why does he want me? Marco answered when Dante seemed too angry to speak. Anthony Marino is Victor's cousin. He was exiled for violating multiple accords, targeting civilians, unnecessary violence, instability. Victor kept him away for years. But with Victor dead, Anthony returned and seized control. He's calling for your death to avenge Victor and establish his authority. My blood ran cold. So I'm not just in danger from random elements. There's someone actively hunting me now. Someone with an army. Yes, Salvatore said bluntly, which is why we need to discuss options. Anthony isn't reasonable like Victor was. He won't be satisfied with warnings or demonstrations of power. He wants blood. He won't get hers, Dante said, reaching for my hand under the table. Father, I need you to support me on this. Full family mobilization. We end Anthony before he becomes a bigger problem. The discussion that followed was intense, with talk of tactics and alliances and resources I barely understood. But what became clear was that my presence had triggered something much bigger than protecting one person. This was about power, about respect, about whether the Romano family would bow to demands or stand firm. Finally, Salvatore looked at me directly. Miss Hayes, you've inadvertently become the center of a conflict that could reshape Chicago's underworld. My son is willing to go to war to protect you. Are you prepared for what that means? The violence, the casualties, the possibility that people will die because you're here? The question was brutal but fair. I looked at Dante, at the fierce determination in his eyes, the protective rage barely controlled. Then back at Salvatore. I never wanted any of this. I just helped someone bleeding in an alley. But I'm not naive enough to think my leaving would stop anything now. Anthony wants to make an example, to establish power. If not me, he'll find another excuse for conflict. Smart girl, Salvatore said with something like approval. You're right. This is bigger than you now. Anthony's return was always going to mean war. You're just the match, not the powder keg. He turned to Dante. Mobilize our people. Reach out to the other families. Remind them of Anthony's exile and why it happened. If we're going to do this, we do it with support. As the meeting broke up and plans were set in motion, Dante pulled me aside. I need to go handle things. You'll stay here with triple security. Do not leave the estate. Do not go anywhere without guards. And if anything feels wrong, you get to the panic room Marco will show you, understand? Dante, I'm scared, I admitted, my voice breaking slightly. He pulled me into his arms, holding me tight. I know, love, but I promise you, Anthony Marino will not touch you. I'll burn his entire organization to the ground before I let that happen. The vow was fierce, absolute, and I believed him completely. 2 days of tense preparation followed. The estate became an armed camp, with men patrolling constantly, weapons visible, the atmosphere charged with anticipation of violence. Dante barely slept, coordinating with his father and brothers, reaching out to allies, planning strategy I wasn't privy to. I tried to stay out of the way, spending time in my room reading or attempting to distract myself. Maria stayed close, kind but clearly nervous. Even she knew something major was coming. It was the second night when they came. I was in bed, not sleeping but trying, when alarms suddenly blared throughout the estate. Dante burst into my room seconds later, fully armed, his face set in grim determination. "They're here," he said, pulling me from bed. "Marino's people are trying to breach the perimeter. I need to get you to the panic room now." My heart hammered as he rushed me through corridors, other men joining us, creating a protective formation. The panic room was in the basement, a reinforced bunker with supplies and communications. Marco was already there, coordinating defenses via radio. "Stay here," Dante ordered, framing my face with his hands. "No matter what you hear, you stay in this room until I come get you personally. Marco will guard the door. No one gets through him." "Dante, please be careful," I begged, terror clawing at me. "I love you," he said, kissing me hard. "Remember that." Then he was gone, the heavy door sealing behind him with an ominous thud. Marco positioned himself by the door, weapon ready, his expression focused. "He'll be fine," he assured me. "Boss is the best at what he does." Time became meaningless. I heard sounds, distant gunfire, shouts, explosions that shook the walls. Each noise made me flinch, imagining Dante hurt or worse. I paced the small space, unable to sit, unable to think about anything except him out there fighting because of me. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. I couldn't tell. Then suddenly Marco's radio crackled. "Panic room, this is Luca. We've pushed them back. Casualties on both sides, but the estate is secure. Bringing the boss down now." Relief flooded through me, so intense my knees went weak. Marco smiled. "Told you. Boss is tough." When the door opened minutes later, Dante stood there, bloodied but alive, exhaustion and something victorious in his expression. I ran to him, throwing myself into his arms, not caring about the blood or dirt. He was alive. That was all that mattered. "It's over," he said into my hair. "Marino's forces are broken. We captured several, including one of his lieutenants. The other families have condemned his attack and withdrawn support. He's finished." "Are you hurt?" I asked, pulling back to examine him. "Not my blood," he assured me. "Well, mostly not. Minor cuts, nothing serious. But Emma, we need to end this, tonight. Marino won't stop, and I can't keep you locked in a panic room forever. I'm going to finish this." I understood what he meant. He was going to kill Anthony Marino. Personally. To eliminate the threat once and for all. "Then I'm coming with you," I said, surprising everyone including myself. "Absolutely not," Dante said immediately. "Yes," I insisted. "He wants me because I saved you. He's using me as an excuse for war. I should be there when it ends. I need to see this through, Dante. I need to face this world you're asking me to be part of." We argued, but eventually he relented, seeing the determination in my eyes. If I was going to choose his life, I needed to understand all of it, including the darkness. They found Anthony Marino in a warehouse he'd been using as a base, hiding after his attack failed. The captured lieutenant gave up the location within hours. Dante's forces surrounded it quickly, efficiently, leaving no escape. I rode in the SUV with Dante, Marco, and Luca, my heart pounding with fear and strange anticipation. This was the man who'd wanted me dead, who'd attacked the estate, who'd caused so much violence. Inside the warehouse, Anthony Marino stood defiant, surrounded by the last few loyal men, all disarmed and restrained. He was in his 40s, scarred and vicious-looking, with cruel eyes that fixed on me the moment we entered. "So you're the nurse," he sneered. "The woman worth starting a war over. You don't look like much." "And you don't look like someone worth Victor's loyalty," I shot back, surprising myself with my boldness. "He kept you exiled for good reason. You're unstable, dangerous to everyone including your own people." His face reddened with rage. "Victor was weak. He let the Romanos and the other families dictate terms, kept me banished while he played their games. I'm taking what should have been his power, territory, respect. You have none of those things," Dante said coldly, stepping forward. "Your attack failed. Your allies abandoned you. The other families have condemned you. You're alone, Anthony. And you're finished. You can't kill me, Anthony said desperately. I have support, people who'll avenge. You have nothing, Salvatore said, entering behind us with additional men. I've spent the last 2 days ensuring that. Every organization, every family, every ally you might have had has been reminded of why you were exiled. No one will avenge you. No one will mourn you. You'll simply disappear, and the world will be better for it. Anthony's eyes darted around, realizing his situation was hopeless. Then they fixed on me with pure hatred. This is your fault. If you'd just minded your own business that night, she saved a life, I interrupted. That's what good people do. Something you'd never understand. You're not angry because I helped Dante. You're angry because Victor's death left you with nothing, and you needed someone to blame. Well, here I am, and I'm not afraid of you anymore. Dante's hand found mine, squeezing gently, pride in his expression. Emma, you should wait outside for this. I shook my head. No, I need to see it. All of it. What happened next was quick. Dante approached Anthony, and despite knowing violence was coming, despite being prepared, I still flinched when he pulled out a weapon. Anthony lunged, desperate and foolish, and Dante's response was efficient, practiced, final. It was over in seconds. Anthony Marino, the man who'd terrorized me from the shadows, who'd attacked the estate, who'd threatened war, gone. Dante returned to me immediately, searching my face for horror or judgment. Instead, I felt only relief. It was truly over. The threat eliminated. My life no longer hanging in balance. Are you okay? He asked softly. Yes, I said, and meant it. I am now. 3 days later, Salvatore called me to his office. Dante accompanied me, his hand in mine, a united front. The older man looked tired but satisfied. The crisis resolved. His family and organization secure. Miss Hayes, he began formally. The threat to you has been eliminated. Anthony Marino is dead. His organization disbanded. The other families have confirmed peace. You are safe to return to your normal life if you wish. There it was. The choice I'd known was coming. Return to my apartment, my job at St. Mary's, my quiet, predictable life, or stay in this world of danger and complexity with the man I loved. And if I don't wish to return? I asked. Salvatore smiled slightly. Then we'd be honored to have you remain. My son has made his feelings clear, and you've proven yourself brave, loyal, and intelligent. You've earned a place here if you want it, not just as someone under protection, but as family. I looked at Dante, at the hope and fear warring in his eyes, then back at Salvatore. I need to understand what staying means. Completely. No illusions. Salvatore nodded. Fair. Staying means accepting my son's world, the violence we sometimes must employ, the constant security, the knowledge that enemies will always exist. It means understanding that the Romano family operates outside conventional law, that we have our own codes and justice. It means your life will never be simple or safe, though we'll do everything to protect you. It also means, Dante added softly, that you'll be mine, and I'll be yours. Completely. I'll spend every day trying to give you happiness despite the darkness. I'll shield you from what I can and be honest about what I can't. And I'll love you with everything I have until my last breath. The choice should have been harder. I should have been more conflicted about walking away from normal life, about choosing a criminal's world over safety and legality. But looking at Dante, remembering everything we'd been through, feeling the depth of what we'd built in such short time, the choice was already made. I choose you, I said simply. I choose this life, this family, this world. Not because I'm trapped or afraid, but because I love you. Because what we have is worth the risk. Dante's face transformed with joy and relief. He pulled me into his arms, holding me like I was everything. I'll make you happy, he promised against my hair. I swear it, Emma, you won't regret this. Salvatore stood, coming around his desk with approval in his eyes. Then welcome to the family, Miss Hayes. Officially. He extended his hand and I shook it, sealing my fate. The weeks that followed were adjustment and joy mixed together. I resigned from St. Mary's, though Dante ensured they received a generous donation in my name. My apartment was cleared out, my few possessions integrated into the East Wing that became truly ours. I met extended family members, learned the rhythms of life in this world, began to understand the complex web of alliances and territories. Dante proposed properly 2 months later, with a ring that probably cost more than I'd made in 5 years, and words that made me cry with happiness. We married in a small ceremony on the estate grounds, surrounded by family and the strange collection of criminals and legitimate business people who made up the Romano world. My parents would have been horrified, I thought sometimes. Their daughter marrying into organized crime, living in luxury built on illegal foundations. But they'd also taught me to follow my heart, to help people when I could, to choose love over fear. And that's exactly what I'd done. The night of our wedding, as we danced under strings of lights in the garden where we'd almost first kissed, Dante pulled me close and whispered, "Any regrets?" I looked up at this complicated, dangerous, surprisingly gentle man who'd somehow become my everything. "Only one," I said, and watched concern flash across his face. "I regret not stopping to help every wounded stranger I've ever passed, because if they all led to this, to you, to this life, it would have been worth it every single time." He laughed, that rare, genuine laugh I'd learned to treasure, and kissed me as his family cheered around us. Emma Hayes had saved a wounded stranger in an alley, and in doing so, had found a life she never knew she wanted. A dangerous life, certainly. An unconventional life, absolutely. But a life filled with love, protection, purpose, and a man who would burn the world down to keep her safe. Some might say I made the wrong choice, that I should have walked away, returned to normalcy, left the darkness behind. But standing there in Dante's arms, surrounded by the family that had accepted me, I knew with absolute certainty I'd made the right one. Because sometimes the person you save ends up saving you right back. And sometimes love doesn't look like what you expected. It looks like a bleeding stranger, a dangerous world, and a choice to embrace both because the alternative is unthinkable. My name is Emma Romano now. I'm the wife of a Mafia heir, part of one of Chicago's 5 families, living a life I never imagined. And I wouldn't change a single moment of how I got here, starting with that night in the alley when I chose compassion over caution and changed both our lives forever. If you enjoyed this story, please give it a like, subscribe for more content like this, and drop a comment telling me what you thought. I'd love to hear from you. What would you have done in Emma's situation?